Welcome back to This Week in Film, the exciting podcast where we get together every week to discuss the movies we saw. I'm Nick Panunto, joined for the first time by Puberty and Lou Italini and Dan Moran.
Hey, everybody.
Guys, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for making time for us.
Thanks for having us on the first Superfan edition in the palatial This Week in Film podcast estate.
Yeah, man. Listen, I got a big seat to fill for the old Ray Radaminsky and Charlie Chester.
That's right. Those are the names of two other people on the show that you're now a part of.
Yeah!
Woo! You guys entered the secret sweepstakes, and you've won. We had some scheduling conflicts this week, and you guys were gracious enough to have watched a movie and decide to talk to us about it. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Good times.
Good times. Well, I'll lead things off this week by talking about a movie I saw called The Final Girls. It's a horror movie / comedy movie directed by Todd Strauss-Schulson.
I think you nailed it.
Yep. I like to get the regional dialect correct. It came out this past year. Like I said, it's a comedy horror movie, and the idea behind it is the main characters go to see... well, first off, it stars Thaisa Farmiga, who I don't know. I don't know what else she's been in. The Bling Ring. Malin Ackerman, who was in
Watchmen.
Who was in
Watchmen.
And
that's
she
right.
Was,
21 Dresses also.
She was the topless scene in Harold and Kumar. She's
and Watchmen.
But
Yes.
she's on
Also-
Children's
She's on
Hospital.
Children's Hospital, which is where I know her
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
Adam Devine from Workaholics is in it. Thomas Middleditch.
Pitch Perfect.
I did say it correctly. No puberty voice cracks on that pronunciation.
I was saying where Adam Devine was from.
No voice cracks. And anyway, so the Thaisa Farmiga
We're just
and
going to roll with that
the dude
pronunciation.
from, what's the HBO show about computers?
Silicon Valley.
That's it. Thomas Middleditch and the Thaisa girl. Thaisa's mom is dead. And so on the anniversary of her death, they go to see a movie that she was the star of in the 80s. Because that's what you want to do when you go see on the anniversary of your mom's death. Anyway, I've gone on too long. They get sucked into the movie in the 80s, which is a neat premise that kids from today are teenagers, although they're clearly in their 30s.
What was the movie where that happened in the TV with John Ritter?
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
It was one of Tony's favorite movies.
Really?
Covered it on the show.
Oh.
Dude.
Superfan Dan knows.
That movie's amazing.
And isn't the guy who
It's
sells
not.
in the TV...
It's not amazing. I had to watch it again for the video edition. Available on YouTube.
Moving on.
And is not good.
Isn't the guy that sells him the satellite, the principal from Ferris Bueller, also known
He is.
kid toucher?
Yep. Alleged known
It's
kid
known
toucher.
that it's
No,
allegedly.
I think he was convicted.
Allegedly. And
Final Girls.
so anyway, they get sucked back into this 80s horror movie. It's basically a straight up ripoff of Friday the 13th. And the movie starts out great. Like the premise is they have to go along with the movie because they keep trying to veer off course where they're like, well, let's just not go there and we won't have to deal with any of this stuff. They're also confused. And the movie just keeps restarting on them. So it keeps restarting. So you start getting this Groundhog Day kind of feel to it where you think, oh, they have to go along with the movie and maybe just survive to the end. And they kind of abandon that premise almost immediately. It's pretty disappointing. It's just pretty disappointing that they don't continue with that. It kind of goes down a bunch of different roads, and I don't want to spoil it if you're going to go see it. But I think my biggest problem with it is the movie isn't the movie that I wanted. Like for instance, I wanted them to continue with this Groundhog Day thing where they have to go along with each major scene in the movie, but they try to change things. And if the person who they're with doesn't get killed, they have to do the scene again. Because I knew Adam Devine was in it, and I just thought he would just keep getting killed over and over again.
Oh.
You know, like in just different, like the kind of a Final Destination kind of thing where no matter what, the killer would get to him. No, it's not nothing like that at all. It's just at some point they go, you all have to die in order for us to escape. And all of the characters in the movie go, okay, I guess we'll do
And they
that.
give in like that?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
And then they play into that teenage horror movie where if you have sex with somebody, you'll die. So they just say, stop having sex with people. And they all do. They all just stop having sex with each other.
Is that part supposed to be funny? Like,
it's kind of funny.
Well, like so, it's like
funny.
the meta take on a horror movie where it's like we know we're in a horror movie, so let's stop doing the tropes.
Exactly.
maybe you need to watch it again, like you're watching Deadpool, but a horror spoof, where they break the fourth wall. Will that help
maybe.
it out?
I mean, it wasn't a bad movie, but I wish that it was better than it was.
If it had a little more quantum leap to it, like if Sam Beckett leapt into it and he was.
If
And they
Scott
kept popping
Bakula
around.
showed up, that would have been insane because one, wow.
yeah, that would be one hell of a cameo.
And two,
Yeah.
C1. Wow.
His acting career really took a quantum leap out to nowhere.
Hey, Necessary Roughness was a fantastic football movie.
And Star Trek Enterprise was a show. Dan liked that one.
Yep.
He sure did. Dan, don't laugh away from your mic. Let the people hear it. They don't go into like any of the things you think that they're going to go into. For instance, the male lead, who's supposed to be like this, like a cool jock kind of guy. Like he's not like a dick or anything, but he recently broke up with his girlfriend, and she forces herself into the story.
Mm-hmm.
But almost immediately she's like, I'm sorry, I was a terrible person. Let's survive this. And you're like, well, now I don't really know why you're here, but you're also continue to do annoying things. You know, like you're waiting for her to get killed off and things like that. And the movie just progresses, and it's.
Wait, did I miss does everybody get sucked into the movie, or is like everybody like she brought herself into
like
the movie at some point?
4 or 5 people get sucked
Oh.
into the movie.
All at the same time?
They're at the movie theater watching this girl's dead mom on screen, and someone accidentally starts a fire, and the only way to get out is to go through a tear in the movie screen, and that's how they get sucked into the movie world.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Oh.
Because, yeah.
it's really addressing fire safety. You know, it's about knowing where your fire exits are and having fire exits. That's why those exits are at the front of the theater and the back.
Right. Right.
Because you never know when the stoner guy's going to drop his vodka and another dude's going to drop a cigarette on it.
It was straight like backyard moonshine vodka too, because vodka is not that flammable. So I already don't like this premise at all. No. Also, if they would have went through the back of the screen like Hercules from Sandlot, you would have just ripped through the movie theater and you wouldn't have gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
But nobody goes from the front to the back.
No one pickled the beast.
No, yeah. So you basically watched a 90-minute PSA about fire safety.
Yeah. It's not bad. It's probably worth watching if you catch it on Netflix.
worth a rental.
Definitely worth a rental. I just wish that it was better. I was just kind of disappointed.
Well,
All right, there we go.
It's tough to talk about a horror movie that you can't talk about the ending or spoilers. The other thing I didn't really like about it is the people who are supposed to be in the 80s movie definitely are playing up that it's the 80s, which is a little kind of takes you out of it.
cool, dude.
Exactly. Like radical, dude. You know, kind of a thing.
Totally tubular.
Really high hair and the whole bit, yeah.
So I'm not really going to go into spoilers, but I thought that was a fun little extra bit of fun.
You really kept me dangling there. I thought I was going to hear
I
how
was
this
on the edge
movie
of my
I'm
seat.
never going to watch
Yeah,
ends.
yeah.
It's always fun to say fun multiple times.
All right.
So anyway, Dan, what did you see this week?
Well, I guess kind of sticking with the horror genre, in a way, I watched Dark Star, H.R. Giger's World, which was
Speaking of back to front.
speaking of back to front, and speaking of phalluses,
Dark Star.
yeah.
I see what you did there.
So This is a documentary about H.R. Giger, who was the guy who created the aliens from the Alien movies, and I kind of went into it expecting, I wanted a reason to watch this documentary. I was like, I'm going to be on this thing, so let's watch a documentary. And then I realized I unintentionally went double douche and watched a foreign language documentary because it's Swiss with English subtitles.
That's okay, Dan. They make movies in other countries.
They do. They do. And so
quite prolifically.
So, you go in there, you think, okay, like I'm going to see what's up with what's in this guy's head that created the aliens and all these weird pictures that he creates. And it really kind of starts off in that vein. Like he takes you through his yard, which is this big overgrown yard with all kinds of creepy statues in there, and then takes you up to his front door, and you open the door, and it's a regular door, but then the second door looks like something from the Aliens movie. And then
he has 2 front doors.
Yeah, but it's unclear if it's an actual second front door or if they just put that in there. I'm not sure. So then, and I'm like, oh man, this guy's creepy. And then one of my notes is, of course he has a cat, because there's a cat that's there. Yeah, and so you go in and you see all kinds of alien things, and there's all kinds of women statues with penises. So many penises in this guy's house. And at some point,
hey, he's got a brand.
Yeah, he's really playing it up. So,
More curved tubes.
Yeah, one of his, I think, 4 ex-wives who were also assistants at one time try to tell you that his art has nothing to do with phalluses, and the phalluses aren't the focal point, but it's kind of the only point in all the art. So
wait, all 4 ex-wives give testimonies about how it's not phallic?
No, one of the.
Oh, one of them. I'm sorry.
Of the 4. Yeah. No. They all 4 of them. All 4 of them did kind of try to hammer home the point that he was just a normal guy, but obviously only one of them stuck with him. So I guess one of them.
What was the name of the document? Oh, Dark Stars.
Dark Star, H.R. Giger's World. So after watching it, I kind of thought they could have gotten the point across in 30 minutes that they took an hour and 40 minutes to get to. And at some points, I felt like I was watching The Lord of the Rings because there was just a lot of him walking.
I did that with our Batman Superman Redux.
Yeah, so...
You want to talk about it for another 90 minutes?
Yeah,
I do.
But yeah, and there's different shots of him walking and different shots of him signing books and just his kind of creepy house. But his house, I found out this is directed by Belinda Salin, who said she intentionally didn't do like what led up to like most of his career. Like she intentionally wanted to do a documentary about what this guy's like now as an old man.
What?
Yeah, and like to like try and prove the point that he's just a regular guy. But
what?
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's weird. So you go into it expecting to see all this shit about aliens, and then it's a footnote, and literally the only person who was interviewed in the entire documentary who is not identified is Ridley Scott. Like everybody else's name is up there, all the assistants, some weird metal band guy that's one of his assistants. Ridley Scott's up there, name doesn't even show.
They don't even.
Yeah,
oh man.
Yeah, and it was like
insanity.
Yeah, basically Aliens was really a footnote, maybe 10 minutes, and it had one quote from Ridley Scott about how they said, I saw this guy's Necronomicon, and then I knew I needed him to do the aliens, and that was about it. Yeah.
You can do a documentary about anybody if you don't include why it's important.
Yeah.
There's just some dude.
So literally, it's a documentary that kind of like reinforces the point that sometimes people can get laid just because they're really famous for one thing.
Yeah.
Then that's really about it. Because in the end, like he died shortly after this was filmed, and he basically didn't have any money. And he
no way.
Yeah, like his current wife, who was married to him when he died, just said, they were really just kind of scraping by. So, and his house is kind of ends up, it looks kind of like from the outside, you're like, oh man, it's kind of like that city at the end of season 1 of True Detective, like this weird, creepy thing.
Seen it yet.
It's like just this really creepy, like, overgrown yard. And then you realize it's just an overgrown yard, and his house is in the middle of, like, Zurich. So, like, the elevated train drives right by this, like, den of crazy. So, like,
filled with statues and extra doors.
Yeah, exactly. Statues, extra doors, dongs, like, all kinds.
It's a dong palace.
Yeah. And he even has this, apparently, like, I guess his whole thing, like, to kind of sum up what he is, I guess, is he's just a guy who was traumatized by this event when he was young. Like, his sister took him into the basement of this museum when he was, like, 6 or something like that, and showed him a mummy, and it scared him, and she made fun of him. And then he took his entire life to try and prove that he wasn't afraid of anything.
They would
so,
put
like,
penis on everything.
Yeah, so now it would be everything. Yeah, so yeah,
Mummy had no penis.
Yeah, so like all his shit is his nightmares. Like, he has these nightmares and he draws them so that he's not afraid of them anymore. So all the penises and tortured fetuses and stuff, it's all because he's scared of the whole thing. And he kind of comes off as, they try to make him seem just like a normal guy, kind of funny and stuff, but he just looks kind of scared all the time. And and his house ends up being like this kind of creepy Neverland ranch, because he has this little train that he built, this train track, and he rides it through. Yeah, he rides it through his house.
Oh wait, he can ride it.
Oh,
yeah,
he rides like it's an
like
indoor train.
No, it starts in the house. It's like silver spoons, like that size. You know what I mean? And he rides it through this creepy maze of like blood and gore and tits and ass. It's just insane. And it gets real.
But he's just a normal guy.
Yeah, he's just a
documentary about normal guy.
Yeah, it's like he throughout the documentary he's different, just American like pop culture icons. Like, he seems kind of like a creepy Michael Jackson at some point.
Whoa,
Michael Jackson.
All right.
Even more creepy.
Okay.
Even more creepy. That's a good point. That's a.
Oh my God.
Oh, I didn't know Michael Jackson wasn't creepy until right now.
He's like a murdery O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's another point. He seems just like an even weirder Napoleon Dynamite, because like right in the beginning he shows this skull and he's like, "Hey, this is like the first skull that we ever got." And it was sent to us by this guy, and it really scared me. So I put it on a string and walked it around outside to prove I wasn't scared of it. Mm-hmm. So like, so you just imagine him like hanging out the school bus, like, I can do whatever I want.
Was he saying these things in Swiss?
Yeah, he was.
So maybe there's something in the translation.
Yeah.
You know, like not that I took my skull for a walk in the neighborhood, but.
I don't know.
I don't know how you spin that.
I don't know exactly how you spin that, but yeah, it's like there were little snippets of him as like a young man. Like, he was talking about how, like, you know, he was saying that like dreams, like everybody's afraid to draw or depict their dreams or try to talk about them because of their inhibition. So, this guy was a little bit off, and they talk about his first lover. They were together for like 9 years, and she came from like...
I hate the word lover.
Yeah, lover. That's what I read it on Wikipedia today.
My lover.
Yeah, like, my lover. Yeah, right.
Is that the Will Ferrell skit from the 90s?
And Rachel Dratch.
Yeah.
Lover.
My lover joins me in the hot tub.
Yeah.
But this is Europe, so it's totally cool?
Yeah, absolutely. So his first lady, they were together for like 9 years, and she ended up killing herself because she was like crazy.
All the people.
Like, she was crazy like Catholic, and then she came to this guy's house where like anything kind of goes, and it was an open relationship. So he talks about how like his art couldn't help her. I'm like, I don't know that your art could really help anybody, dude. But they kind of prove that it does, because they show him like signing copies of like this new Alien book, and there's grown men just walking up to him, just like sobbing. And this one guy, after he signs the book, calls him master. And there's like fat guys taking their shirts off and showing him like full back tattoos of like his art. Yeah, so
I still don't think this is healthy. It's not helping anybody.
No, it's not. Yeah, so I guess everybody's got a crew, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So get your This Week in Film tattoo.
Yeah,
and come
join us at Filmicon.
Yeah, as long as you call me master, apparently. So yeah, I don't know.
This week long celebration.
I see what you did there.
Show us your best This Week in Film tattoo, and you'll win a prize pack.
Show us your tattoo of Charlie.
Yeah. So I mean, in the end, I mean, if you're interested in this guy, watch something else.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
Well,
I mean, there's
you were telling me that you watched it, and I was saying how like lately I've been trying to watch some documentaries about filmmaking. Like I watched that Terry Gilliam's Man of La Mancha documentary recently, and I want to watch the documentary about the making of The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Which is supposed to be insane, like just a great, like
the original one.
No, the one with
Val Kilmer.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
The whole thing was a shit show, right?
yeah, like a total insane, just insane.
You could tell that by watching the
Double
movie that it was a
insane.
shit show.
Yeah, but like the director got kicked off the project and then lived in the woods
Yeah.
outside the movies just so he could watch what's going on and things like that. So, but when you told me you watched an H.R. Giger documentary, I thought it would be about the making of the Alien thing, which is really the only thing I know that he made.
Yeah, and
But
yeah,
it's famous enough that I know the name of the guy who made it.
yeah, and
Like,
he basically he
you
does
know?
a lot of art like that. He draws a lot of things that look like aliens. There's a lot of
Yeah.
things that like mesh apparently like humans and machines and getting violated with various things.
Oh yeah, he has a
He has a
niche.
following.
He has a themed existence. He goes all in on his
and
art.
I think maybe if it was a documentary directed by an American, that would have been a much larger focal point.
Yeah.
And I guess if they didn't intentionally just want to follow him around now that he's an old man, but yeah, I think there's apparently other things out there about like his early career and his contributions to Alien and stuff like that. So yeah, but if you're looking for a compelling thing, watch something else about him.
Dan
Not
says
this.
no.
Yeah.
Hard pass.
And then I said it was boring, but then I just talked about it for another 15 minutes.
Yeah. Well, the bad movies are the best ones to talk about. Sometimes you watch a horror movie you can't say anything about.
And I apologize to the H.R. Giger fans out there.
The Giger readers.
Yeah.
The Gigarians.
Yeah, that's funny. Where's
Gigs.
I got nothing better.
Oh yeah. One more thing I want to say about
Dan, you have
H.R.
wrapped up.
Giger. No, one more.
You've got the light.
One more. Just I'm not sure if the guy ever bathed because his one partner talked about how his bathtub was always full of books. So obviously a bathtub full of books is never full of you. Yeah, I'm like,
Put that on a t-shirt.
A bathtub full of books is never a bathtub full of you. It's
Yeah.
at least a nice little like quote.
Yeah, that's
quote, you know,
great.
Well, yeah.
That's pretty.
anonymous.
That's pretty good. That might be my new favorite saying. That's really good.
aren't you glad you didn't wrap me up?
Yeah.
Put you back in for that.
Thanks
big-
for standing your ground. man. When you said that he rode around on a train, I immediately imagined he had a whole outfit for it, complete with hat. Like,
Choo choo.
the straight
Time
beat
to get
with
on.
the puffy hat. Yeah. Also, I can't hear H.R. Giger without thinking of Matt Gorley.
which
Yeah.
is the only reason I know
Yeah, me too. I
who
think me too.
H.R.
yeah.
Giger is.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
don't know. I have never seen the Alien movie.
If you don't know who Matt Gorley is, look him up. He's a very, very funny comedian. Lou,
Hey,
what did you see this week?
I saw the 1989 Peter Weir directed Dead Poet Society.
All right.
Yeah. Actually, a fun Matt Gorley tie-in here why I watched this movie.
Gorley fact.
Gorley fact. This actually, Matt Gorley's got a great podcast you could go ahead and listen to after you're finished this every week called I Was There Too.
It's very good.
And a few weeks ago, maybe a month, he interviewed a guy named Kurt Leitner, a guy whose mail I deliver. And he was an extra in Dead Poet Society. And the whole reason he was a guest on the show was to talk about the making of Dead Poet Society.
Lou steals mail and then returns it.
I'm just a mailman.
People give Lou mail and say, "Can you give this to so-and-so?" And Lou says, "Sure."
Right. Anyway, that episode.
That was very funny.
Yeah. Oh, the only reason we're not laughing is because
How true it
we're
is.
just not. So after that podcast episode, I always knew that I wanted to get back and watch the movie again, having known what I know from the guy who was on the front lines as an extra. So when you said, "Hey, do you want to do the show? You need to watch a movie," HBO Now
Our
came
only
through.
rule.
HBO Now came through for me. It was sitting right there, and I dove right in. Dead Poet Society came out in 1989. and I remember seeing it as a 10-year-old because that's what you did when you live in Delaware. You saw the movie on the day it opened that was filmed in your state.
And watch it once a year.
Watch it once a year. Yes. But it's set in 1959 at a boys' boarding school named Welton Academy, St. Andrew's Academy if you live in Delaware. But
Kids call it the warehouse.
And it follows the bunch of kids starting on day one of school, and they're not hijinks. The brief synopsis is that it's a bunch of kids on the first day of school going through a school year, and the English teacher was just retired, and they hired the new one, Robin Williams, as Mr. Keating.
And the world is a-changin'.
Oh boy, is it. Oh boy, is it. Mr. Keating, from day one, makes kids rip out pages of textbooks, walk around the hallway. He just teaches free thinking. And
That's not the status quo.
No, absolutely not. Not 1959. There are rules on poetry and literature. The movie picks up some steam when a few of the kids in the class really take to Keating's freewheeling spirit, and they find an old yearbook from when Keating went to Welton Academy, and in the yearbook it said he was a member of Dead Poets Society. They confront him, say, "Mr. Keating, what's a Dead Poets Society?" And very coy, Robin Williams like, "Well, I doubt they'd like you to know about that." Blah blah blah. Turns out it was a bunch of kids that really wanted to get to know each other and get to know their literature and really. What's the way they say it? Take the meaning out of life. And there's an old cave off the campus grounds where they would meet up and read poems and play music and all this together. So the kids are inspired. They decide they're going to bring back the Dead Poets Society. The one character by Robert Sean Leonard, is that his name?
Sean Patrick Flaherty?
Robert Sean Leonard.
Not Powder.
He comes back to his dorm room and he sees a book on his desk, and he sees that Mr. Keating had dropped off the book they had read from, which is a bunch of Walt Whitman stuff. So Keating obviously gave his blessing to say, "Go ahead and do this. Here's the book we use." They go out into the cave overnight. They start the Dead Poets Society. And then the ripple effects go through school, and it ends pretty damn sad. Now let's go back. The movie follows pretty much three main stories of three of the kids. Robert Sean Leonard's character, whose father is the dad from 70 Show. He's got a cool name. It's like BoJack Horseman, but it's
Red Foreman.
That's
the dude.
All I got
that's
are
his
character
name.
names, but he's got a cool name, and we'll figure it out. And everybody who listens to this knows it right away.
Do you fly, Bobby?
He is
a RoboCop.
He's an extremely, extremely overbearing father who pretty much tells his son Neil exactly what class he's going to take, because you are here to do one thing, and when you graduate, then you can make your own decisions. Neil really wants to, he tells him he has to stop writing for the school paper, and throughout the school year, he wants to act. And it's just a thing I have a problem with, because he sees that the local community theater is having auditions for Midsummer Night's Dream, and he flips out in his room. And he's like, "I really want to do it. I've always wanted to act." And his roommate tries to talk him out. Ethan Hawke, a very young Ethan Hawke, his roommate, tries to talk him out of it.
Ethan Hawke coming up a lot in our show lately.
Man,
exactly.
Keep going, Lou.
Ethan Hawke obviously had been witness to his dad's dressing down, so he's like, "You don't want to do that. You'll piss your dad off." And he's like, "I just want to do it. Why can't you be on my side?" Anyway, he goes out and auditions for his first play ever and gets a major role in it.
Yeah.
The role in that play.
He gets puck.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
got it went from
exactly.
0 to 60.
I feel like that happens to everybody.
Well,
Right.
I did that.
Yeah.
Well, he's clearly an acting savant, this kid.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, 100%. The other storyline, because they all wrap up at the end. Ethan Hawke obviously is a kid. He's like a legacy child. So his brother was a graduate of Welton Academy. So he's got, as they keep telling him, big shoes to fill. And his is
Because they won't buy him new shoes.
he's a shy, sheltered.
Oh, man.
That was great watching that roll over.
Oh, man.
Like Ethan Hawke is plays. He's quiet in his shell. Won't be brought out, and can't be brought out of it. And Robin Williams, obviously, the teacher who wants everybody to be, stand on their desk and write a poem and recite it, and tries to help him break out. And there is a breakthrough. And then the other
spoiler alert.
Well, there's some major spoilers. All the stories have now intertwined to the climax of the movie where
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
right before. So when Neil gets the part in the show, he decides this is the time to tell his father. After he has now forged a letter to the headmaster from his father saying, yes, I give him my permission to take part in this show. He tells him, I got the role in this part, I'm doing it. He says, no, you're not. You're going to leave the show. And he says, no, father, I'm going to do the show. So he does the performance for the entirety of the run. On the last night, he's doing the show, and you can see in the back of the room, Dad from 70 Show is in the back. He locks eyes with him. He finishes, standing ovation. At the end of the show, the father tells him, he's pulling him out of Welton Academy. He's putting him in military school. You won't disobey me again. And then I just remember now, when I was 10 years old in the movie theater, this is where you find out suicide's a thing, because the kid, they pull him out of school. He's living with his parents again, and the father wakes up to what he hears as a sound. We find out that sound was a gunshot because Neil had now shot himself because he's not going to live like that.
Yeah, when I was 7, that was a really powerful scene.
Yeah. And I didn't and when I watch it again now, and I know I've seen it since, obviously, when I was 10, but I was like, oh man, I can just really put that in perspective. I was here at my parents. Yeah. It's like, I don't even think I asked about that after that.
And your dad was like, see what theater leads to.
You're going to be a mailman.
Better not be Puck.
At the same time that happens, which now obviously these, because there was a confrontation with Neil's dad with Robin Williams, Mr. Keating, saying like, you stay away from my son. You're the negative influence on his life.
Yeah, they blame Robin Williams for all of it. Right?
Everything. And the Dead Poet Society they blame Robin Williams for making these kids do Dead Poet Society. The suicide all leads to Keating's the problem. All the kids are forced to sign a confession blaming Keating for everything. The last hammer to fall is that the one? Last hammer to fall? Sure.
Yeah, it is now.
I mean, if you got a bunch of hammers.
Yeah, they're all going to fall.
Balance precariously.
One of them's going to fall. Todd Henderson is the last guy, young Ethan Hawke, and he knows he doesn't want to sign it, but they are threatening expulsion if they don't. And I don't know why you would not have Keating just get his stuff before school or after class, but right in the middle of class, Mr. Keating walks through to go get his things, and all the students, and a call back to earlier, stand up on their desk as he's leaving, like, oh, Captain, my Captain, and with a tear in his eye, he says, thank you, boys, and exits, and
Stars in Popeye.
Wait, was that? No, it was before. Popeye was first.
Yeah.
Well, so that's the story. It's still a powerful story. I found it still held up more than I thought it would. It's hard not to hold up when it's set in 1959. So, nothing about it is dated.
And it takes place in magical Delaware.
And it takes place entirely in magical Delaware, which is great.
Except for that modern car that you see drive through in the background in that one scene.
Little rando.
Yeah.
More modern kids refer to Delaware as D-dubs.
How modern is that?
It's like the next generation. Like kids who called it the warehouse, their kids are now calling it
D-dubs.
Don't do that. But fun fact for me, I was in high school, I played jazz band at St. Andrew's School. My band now is played on the green across the street from where they filmed in Newcastle. And in the Everett Theater, where Neil does all of the Midsummer Night's Dream, I just performed the show there 2 months ago. So I've performed in all the locations at Dead Poet Society.
Only one thing left to do, Lou.
Complete your Delaware story. But no, so I think I explained the movie too long, but it was good. I liked it still. Well, at the top of the movie is it's a weird shoehorn of information where they have this ceremony for like the start of the school year, and it's clearly a mess, and it gets to a point where the headmaster's like, and as you know, English teacher so and so has resigned and retired, and this year replaced by something Keating, whatever Robin Williams' name is, and he gives his like dossier super fast, and Robin Williams stands up, gives a slight nod, and then cut. It's like not. It was like we got just for that information. It's very possible these kids could have known already their teacher wasn't going to be there. They could have gone to class, and then Robin Williams saunters in and does some Aladdin shit. But so it was weird. It was jarring.
Genius.
Or you could have just had, hello, I'm the new English teacher, Robin Williams.
Yeah, Mr. Keating.
I'm going to change your life.
Oh, that's a plan.
And then you show the principal outside the door going, "We'll
get you, Keating."
Keating.
Keating. So yeah, but that's the only, like, I had that issue because it happens so immediately that I was like, oh, that's odd that they had to get that information in. Fun fact about the guy who wrote this movie.
Oh, fun fact.
Fun fact. Tom Schulman, you may know him as the writer of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Oh, wow.
What About Bob?
Oh.
8 Heads in a Duffel Bag. This is his only drama. And
I
here's
like
the
8
funny
Heads in
thing
a
about
Duffel Bag. It's
the
silly.
interesting thing about this year is that Dead Poet Society came out on June 3rd. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids came out on June 23rd.
The same year.
Same month.
Wow. Just a tour de force by that guy.
Tom Schulman
1989.
wrote 2 movies that came out the same month. One of them is Rick Moranis' retirement plan. The other is, he got him a couple, actually, I believe he did win an Oscar. So Best Adapted Screenplay, basically. He won the Oscar for that.
Oh, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. You're talking Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Maybe I'm reading that wrong. Best Writing Screenplay written directly for the screen. No, not adapted. Best Screenplay.
Okay.
Anyway, Tom Schulman, tour de force of June of '89.
Nice. Good for him.
And one other fun fact, if you listen to that podcast I referred to as the episode with Kurt Leitner on I Was There Too, he explains that on the first day of shooting, all the kids in Keating's class, like at the end of the movie when they stand up and say, "Oh, Captain, my Captain," as he's walking out, some kids don't stand. And that ended up being more of a where you were sitting in class. They filmed the last scene first. So the director let all of the extras, 3 or 4 were planted in actual seats, but all the extras picked their own seats like it was school. Mm-hmm. So you pretty much didn't know you were making the decision about how much screen time you had or what side you were on at the end of the movie on the first day of shooting. And he sat like first row far right because he figured that's where you'd get the action, but turns out he's not in the screen at all.
Right.
So Dead Poet Society.
Yeah, exactly.
So Lou hated Dead Poets Society.
Hey, don't ever watch it.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what it did
Terrible.
remind me of? You guys remember the movie Toy Soldiers?
Of
Yeah.
course.
Every time I see that movie, it makes me think of that movie, like boarding school thing.
Oh, yeah. Red Dawn in a boarding school.
Oh, okay.
But
Oh my God, I have seen that.
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you know him.
Yeah, so everybody watch Toy Soldiers. I mean, Dead Poet Society.
All right.
But it's not the one where Colossus helps him escape from the school, Nick. Not
Oh,
that
right.
one.
Does Wolverine show up?
No, different
No,
movie.
that-
Yeah.
that-
Okay. All right.
Mm-mm.
All right.
As you guys may know, we do a segment each week on the show where one of our co-hosts asks a question of our audience. Last week it was Ray who said, "What's your favorite director's cut of a movie?" We had a lot of responses. And the one I'm going to read is from Facebook listener Chris Killian.
Man, how did you narrow it down to just one? That's did a lot
There
of
were
work.
so many great responses.
And he says his favorite director's cut is the movie Sex Drive.
Which apparently was
Oh, I know that
good
movie
enough for
The one with the
director's
Amish and Seth Green.
cut.
Right?
Rumspringa,
Isn't that it?
right?
Right, is it?
Rumspringa.
I don't know, I
isn't
never
the
saw
girl,
it.
Isn't the girl from 30 Rock in there, Katrina Belton? Isn't she the lead in that? Isn't also like Kumail Nanjiani in that movie? Am I thinking of another movie, Sex Something?
I don't know.
I think you're thinking of the hit Sex Something.
Yeah.
Nah, fair enough.
You might be
Director's cut coming out soon.
you might be thinking of Dark Star, H.R. Giger's World.
Ah,
A lot of penises.
yeah.
So many.
When he's on the train, he's driving sex.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris, for answering this week's question. Sorry we couldn't get to all of the other ones.
Yeah, sorry guys, I ran a little too long on my Dead Poet Society synopsis. So.
Yeah, there's no time.
Yeah.
So, in order to say thanks for coming on the show, fellas, this week, 2 questions.
Uh-oh.
Ah.
We're going to have Dan's Dastardly Demand
All right.
and Lou's
Lighthearted lesson.
So, Dan, what's your dastardly demand for this week?
Going off of Lou's Toy Soldiers and that subsequent discussion, what is a movie that you always get confused with another movie?
Oh,
Oh, that's actually going to be a good one.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty good. Yeah.
So we just heard from Nick. Here's
Yeah, there's like 6 of them.
His life is a Venn diagram of movies he's seen.
They're all one.
They're all in the middle.
movie.
All the Ethan Hawke movies.
Yeah, he's in all of them. And so, Lou, what's this week's lighthearted Lestion mark?
Well done.
Yeah.
Because it is more of a question. There we are. I brought up that
Lestion.
obviously Dead Poet Society was filmed in Delaware. It's where I'm from. I live in Newcastle, and I get to, as a kid, watch the production crew set up and filmed a few scenes that were in Newcastle. So, has anybody, obviously, if you work in the film industry, you don't count. Does anybody happen to have their hometown turned into a like a movie set for a bit? Have you ever got to step out your front door and say, "Oh, what are they doing?" and find out they're filming a movie?
So great questions, guys. If you're listening to us on the Podcast Radio Network, thanks for tuning in. You can find us here every Wednesday night at 10:30. If you're interested in listening to our back catalog or just getting to know us better, Lou, let them know where they can find us.
Absolutely, Nick. Find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, YouTube, Stitcher, Facebook, Twitter, and thisweekinfilmpodcast.com.
That's right. And Dan, do you have any plugs this week?
I got nothing.
Anyone special at home you want to give a sweet shout out
I want to
to?
say hello to my lovely wife and new daughter, Christina.
Yay!
Hey, everybody. Woo!
And Lou, do you have anything to plug?
Oh, I absolutely do, Nick. Guys, you can hear me and some of my pals on our podcast, Elvis End. ELVIS, End. It's an improv comedy
Saying
podcast.
the word and. A-N-D.
And, yes. It's an improv comedy podcast based on the stories of Elvis Presley as told by his closest confidants. It's pretty funny. I mean, pretty.
It is gorgeous.
It's beautiful, beautifully done, and hilarious. Kevin Reagan, Brendan Carr, Adam Wahlberg, Matt Casarino, and others that I could just rattle off here, but it's not my show. Elvis End Podcast. Find us on all of the similar platforms. Give us a rate, review. Hey, rate us 5 stars and tell us how much you love Elvis.
No, it's a great show. I really enjoy listening to it. It's monthly episodes and a lot of great sound design. Funny show, and you actually learn a few things about Elvis.
Yeah,
The beginning of the show, the narrator of the show gives a synopsis of what this week is about, and he tells actual facts about Elvis's life. And then when they get into the show, the improv of the show is based around those 3 segments that the narrator discussed at the beginning. It's really well done. It's very funny, and you should totally check it out.
Yeah, right after you listen to This Week in Film Podcast, go ahead and get yourself an episode of Elvis End, didn't you?
So yeah, please rate, review, and subscribe both of the shows, and tell your friends. I would like to just give Charlie's book, Bowie Zero, a plug. You can find it in all formats, digital and paper.
Is that all?
That's all of them.
You can find it
You
in
can
both
find
formats.
You can find it in all of the 2 formats in nearly every possible location. So just give that a quick old type-a-roo. All right.